All right, let's dive into something I think a lot of people struggle with, procrastination. Today's deep dive is all about Brian Tracy's Eat That Frog.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, a guide to conquering procrastination and just boosting your productivity.
Right.
We're going beyond just summarizing the book. We're
Yeah.
really trying to extract like the golden nuggets of wisdom from it so you can actually put these strategies into action. You know, I read this book a while ago and I needed a refresher. And I was so impressed. Like this is a book that really gives you actionable advice. It's not just conceptual. It's like,
Very practical.
yeah, and it's memorable too, which I think is so important.
Yeah. And what's great about Eat That Frog is that it doesn't just tell you what to do, but it explains why it works.
Yeah.
You know, it makes it much easier to actually apply it in your own life.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start with that central metaphor, the frog. Now, Tracy says your frog is that one task, that big, juicy, important task that you're most likely to procrastinate on. So why do you think we tend to avoid those big, important tasks?
You know, it's not always laziness. Often it's because those tasks feel complex or scary. They require more brain power, more sustained effort.
Right.
But here's the thing, those frogs also have the biggest potential to make a real difference in our success. It's the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of our efforts often lead to 80% of our results.
Oh, it's so true.
So if you want to make a big impact, you got to tackle those big frogs.
So I'm curious, what's your frog right now?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is it a project at work, a personal goal, or maybe even finally cleaning out that closet?
Probably that closet.
I think we all have that closet.
Yeah.
Take a moment to think about it, dear listener. What's that one thing you've been putting off that could really move the needle for you?
Right.
Okay, so now one of the things that really stood out to me in the book was this idea of clarity and the power of clarity. Tracy points out that only 3% of adults have written goals,
Wow.
yet they achieve significantly more than those who don't.
That's amazing.
That's crazy, right? You'd think, like,
You'd think it'd be more.
everyone would be writing down their goals.
Yeah.
So, like, what is the magic behind actually putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard? Like, what is it about writing things down?
Well, it's not magic, but it's close. When you write down your goals, they become tangible. You know, it's like making a contract with yourself.
Yeah.
And Tracy even breaks down this 7-step formula for setting goals.
Okay.
Decide what you want, write it down, set a deadline, list the steps, organize those steps into a plan, take action, and then, very important, track your progress.
Okay.
You can remember it as DWDLPAT, kind of like setting a date with your goals.
I love that. DWDLPAT. All right, so by writing down our goals, we're already ahead of 97% of people. That's a good start.
That's a great start.
But even with clear goals, we still need to prioritize, right?
Absolutely, because we can't do everything at once. That's where the ADCD method comes in.
Oh, yeah, I love this.
It's this simple but super effective system for ranking tasks. It's a lifesaver for anyone who's feeling overwhelmed.
Break it down for us. What are the categories?
Okay, so picture this. A, tasks are your big, important frogs, the ones with serious consequences if you don't get them done. B, tasks are less critical, kind of like tadpoles.
Okay.
C, tasks, nice to do, but no real impact. D, tasks are things you should delegate if you can. And then there are E tasks. Get rid of them. Eliminate, eliminate, eliminate.
I love how this links back to the 80-20 rule.
Right.
We got to figure out what are those 20% tasks that are actually going to move the needle.
Yeah.
And remember Tracy's golden rule, never do a B task, a tadpole, when you have an A task, the big juicy frog staring you in the face.
Right. Tackle those frogs first.
You know, even when we know what our frogs are and we're ready to eat them, there can still be roadblocks, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Tracy calls these key constraints. Those things, internal or external, that prevent us from reaching our goals. Yeah. And guess what? He applies the 80-20 rule here too. 80% of those constraints are internal.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we often blame outside factors when it's actually our own limitations or maybe a lack of skills that are holding us back.
It makes you think, huh?
It does. For example, he tells this story of a company struggling with sales. They thought it was their sales team's fault, but it turned out it was their pricing strategy. Once they fixed that, sales went back up.
Wow.
So sometimes the solution isn't as complicated as we think.
Right. It's about finding the root of the problem. Now, this might sound a bit intimidating, but it's actually empowering, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It means we actually have more control than we realize.
Exactly.
So if you could wave a magic wand and instantly improve one skill to unlock your potential, what would it be? Think about that for a second.
I have to think about that one.
Yeah, it's a good question. All right, so we've talked about identifying our frogs, but how do we actually motivate ourselves to eat them? Let's dive into some tactics in the next part.
Sounds good. So we talked about finding those big frogs, the tasks we tend to avoid, and why they're so important. But how do we actually get ourselves to do them?
That's the real challenge, right? I mean, it's one thing to know what to do, but actually doing it is a whole other story. Tracy has some great ideas in Eat That Frog for actually taking action.
Oh, yeah.
What are some of the tactics that he recommends for getting things done?
One of my favorites is the salami slice method.
Okay, I like that name.
Yeah. Think of a whole salami. It can be a bit much, right?
Right.
But if you slice it up, it becomes manageable. Same with big tasks. Break those down into smaller, bite-sized steps.
It's like that saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Exactly. And when you break things down like that, it makes the whole thing less intimidating, you know?
Yeah,
Plus, you get to celebrate those small wins along the way.
totally. Keeps you motivated.
Definitely. Now, there's also the Swiss cheese method. This one is perfect for when you're really struggling to even get started.
Okay, tell me more.
Commit to just 5, maybe 10 minutes of focused work. That's it. And you'd be surprised how often those 5 minutes turn into 15 or 30, and suddenly you're making real progress.
It's like a little trick for your brain, right?
Yeah.
You get started and then the momentum carries you forward. Plus, it just feels good to check something off your list no matter how small. Makes everything seem a little less overwhelming.
Definitely.
So we've talked about the importance of prioritizing. Now, Tracy also talks about managing your energy levels, not just your time.
Right.
He actually says that working long hours can be counterproductive. Sometimes resting is the best thing for your productivity.
And now you just got to recharge.
It's so true. I think we feel this pressure to constantly be on, but taking a break, letting yourself recharge, you come back even more focused and effective.
Yeah.
Exactly. Tracy talks about things like sleep, obviously, and healthy eating, and taking breaks during the day. He even suggests taking one full day off every week to unplug.
I like that.
Might seem counterintuitive, but it really helps you return to work refreshed and ready to go.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed when I try to push through without breaks, I end up making more mistakes. My productivity actually goes down.
Right, you get burnt out. Taking a few minutes, even just to step away, makes a huge difference.
Huge difference. So we've covered some practical tactics. Tracy also talks about mindset, right?
Oh, absolutely. He's a big believer in positive self-talk. He even talks about affirmations to boost your confidence.
Yeah, self-talk is so important. I think we can be our own worst critics, but if we learn to be more kind to ourselves, more encouraging, it changes everything, our outlook, our results.
Totally. And it's not just about being positive, it's about being proactive. Focus on solutions, not just problems.
I like
He talks about visualizing your goals, making them feel real, attainable. Oh, I love visualization. It's such a powerful tool. When you can see yourself succeeding, it makes it feel much more possible.
Absolutely. And then there's the whole thing about being decisive.
Oh, yeah. Decisiveness.
Tracy really emphasizes that. Being clear in your decision-making is key to overcoming procrastination.
Yeah, it makes sense.
When you're unsure about what you want or how to get there, it's easy to just stay stuck. You remember that stat about only 3% of people writing down their goals? Well, they're often more successful because they've taken the time to define what they actually want.
It's like having a map. You know where you're going, so it's easier to stay on track, even if you hit some detours.
Exactly. And you know what else he suggests? Plan your day the night before.
Okay.
Make your to-do list. Let your subconscious work on those tasks while you sleep. Sometimes you'll even wake up with new insights.
That's so cool. It's like giving your brain a head start.
Exactly. But even with the best plans, distractions happen.
Oh, yeah. Distractions are everywhere.
They are. Tracy talks a lot about that. Create a dedicated workspace, clear of clutter, and set boundaries. Maybe close your office door, put on headphones.
Yeah.
Let people know you're focusing.
I think it's important to remember those distractions aren't always external. Sometimes our own thoughts, our anxieties can be the biggest distractions of all.
That's so true. He addresses that as well. Learning to manage those internal distractions, maybe through mindfulness, maybe just taking a few minutes to clear your head,
Yeah.
it all makes a difference.
This has all been so valuable. But one of the big takeaways from Eat That Frog for me is just the importance of action.
Right.
You can't just read about these techniques, you got to use them.
He's really clear about that.
Yeah.
The do it now
Yeah.
mantra.
Yes.
Take action,
Yes.
even if it's a small step.
Remember that Swiss cheese method. Committing to just 5 minutes can be enough to break that inertia.
Exactly. It's all about building momentum one step at a time. Now, before we wrap up, I want to touch on something I know a lot of people struggle with, those tasks we really dread, the ones that make us want to run and hide.
Oh, yeah. We all have those. Any advice for those super dreaded tasks?
Tracy's advice might surprise you. He says, do them first.
Really, just get them over with.
Get them out of the way early. It frees up your mental energy, reduces stress, and sets you up for a much better day.
It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. Sometimes the anticipation is worse than the actual thing, and once it's done, you feel such a sense of relief.
Exactly. He also talks about using positive self-talk to change how you think about those tasks.
Okay.
Instead of seeing them as burdens, see them as opportunities.
Interesting.
Opportunities for growth, opportunities for accomplishment.
It's all about perspective, isn't it? Just changing the way you think about something can make all the difference. So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into Eat That Frog, from finding those big important tasks to practical strategies for tackling them. But you know what really stood out to me?
What's that?
This book is about so much more than just like checking things off a to-do list.
Yeah.
It's about taking control of our time and our lives, creating space for the things that truly matter.
Absolutely. It's not just about productivity for the sake of being busy. It's about using those productivity principles to achieve something bigger, like living a more fulfilling life.
Exactly. So in this last part, I want to take it a step further. What would it look like to apply these Eat That Frog principles, not just to our tasks, but to our lives as a whole?
Ooh, that's a good one. Think about those areas of your life that really matter: your health, your relationships, your growth, your contributions to society. Imagine identifying the biggest frogs in each of those areas. What are those crucial actions, those game changers that could have the most significant impact on your overall happiness?
It's like that 80-20 rule, but applied to our whole lives. We're focusing on the 20% of actions that will bring us the most joy, the most meaning, the most lasting impact.
Right. And once you've found those life frogs, you can use all those tactics we talked about: clarity, goal setting, planning, prioritization, focused action, persistence. Those can help you make those dreams a reality.
So it's not just about getting things done, it's about getting the right things done, the things that are aligned with our values, our passions, our vision for the future, being intentional with our time and energy, making sure we're moving in the direction we really want to go.
Exactly. Eat That Frog gives us a framework for doing just that. It reminds us we have the power to choose our priorities, to focus our energy, and to take action to create the life we want.
It's been such an insightful deep dive into this book, and I feel like I'm walking away with a renewed sense of purpose and a ton of strategies to tackle those frogs, both big and small, that have been holding me back.
That's great to hear. Remember, the key is to start small. Just pick one frog you're ready to tackle and apply what we've talked about. You'll gain momentum, see results, and that'll motivate you to take on more.
So to our listeners, what are your biggest takeaways from this deep dive? What are those frogs you're ready to eat? We'd love to hear from you. And remember, the journey to a more productive and fulfilling life starts with a single step. Take that step today and see how your world transforms.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive. We can't wait to explore more fascinating topics with you in our next episode. Until then, happy frog eating.